On January the 27th, 2020, law enforcement received a 911 call reporting a missing child. The caller identified herself as Letecia Stauch, initiating what would become a series of deceitful narratives and sensational tales, all designed to throw off detectives. Authorities eventually apprehended and arrested her in South Carolina. Despite never providing a direct confession, she came closest by asserting a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Her purported insanity was attributed to dissociative identity disorder, or DID, with her claiming that one of her alternate personalities, or alters as they are called within the DID community, was responsible for the crime in order to do what it was created to do in the first place, to protect. This is the story of Letecia Stauch, or LS, as I will refer to her from now on, and how she tried to dupe authorities into believing she was insane by faking DID.
Hey guys, today I'm about to play some Sonic Mania.
Gannon Stauch was born on September the 29th, 2008, 4 months premature, and received prolonged medical care. When Gannon was first born, he weighed 1 pound and 6 ounces and had a collapsed lung. He had stomach issues and required a feeding tube. He also had ADHD, but he overcame everything. He was held back 1 grade to allow him to catch up, but you couldn't tell the difference between him and other 5th graders. Gannon was popular and excelled academically. He cherished Nintendo, in particular Sonic. His favorite color was blue, and so during the search for him, his neighbors lit their porches with blue lights so that he could find his way home. Gannon wanted to be a YouTube gamer, and his channel is still up with the 1 video he uploaded before his life was brutally and cruelly cut short. Landon Bullard Hyatt, 34, is a health and PE teacher. She graduated from Green C. Floyd's High School in South Carolina and studied at Coastal Carolina University and Coker College. She and her husband, Mike, have 2 young daughters and live in South Carolina. Gannon was in 5th grade at Grand Mountain School in El Paso County in the Widefield School District when he was brutally murdered. Al Stauch is an operations officer at the 100th Missile Defense Brigade. He studied psychology at Liberty University, graduating in 2010, and space studies at American Military University. LS was born Letecia Hardin on August the 4th, 1983. She was previously married to Chance Hunt, and they separated in 2008. Later, we are to find out that he died, and LS had lied to their daughter, Harley Hunt, about how he died. LS was employed at Horry County School District, South Carolina, which is where she lived at the time. She first met Albert Stauch in 2013 at softball games that they both attended. At this point, Al had shared custody of his children, Gannon and Lena, with their mother, Landon. Around 2014, Al, Harley, and LS moved to Charleston, South Carolina. Gannon and Lena visited when they were not with their mother, Landon, who at this point was separated from Al. According to LS's now deleted Facebook page, where she goes by the name T. Stauch, she worked as a curriculum developer at School District 49 in the Pikes Peak region of Colorado. But the school district said she never actually worked there, despite her listing it on Facebook and her LinkedIn profile. Whatever she's posted is not correct, a school district spokesman said. LS got her license to teach elementary school, special education and secondary social studies in Colorado in March 2019. She previously worked as an education specialist, teacher and at-risk youth coordinator in South Carolina. She completed her doctorate at Liberty University in 2019 in education, according to her LinkedIn profile. She also worked for the South Carolina State Department of Social Services as a human services specialist from 2008 to 2010 in Myrtle Beach, according to her LinkedIn profile. She previously earned her master's degree in curriculum and instruction from Capella University, she said on LinkedIn, after graduating with a political science degree from the University of North Carolina, Pembroke. In 2015, LS lost her job at a school in South Carolina, and her educator certificate was suspended in that state, according to documents from her 2016 appeal of that suspension before the South Carolina State Board of Education. Her certificate was suspended for 180 days after the appeal. LS was accused of breach of contract for abandoning her job as a social studies teacher at Palmetto Middle School in Mullins, South Carolina, in the Marion County School District, where she was employed for the 2015 and 2016 school year. LS signed her annual contract with the school district in June 2015 without informing the school district she had also signed a contract to teach in Charleston. The school district said LS went to in-service professional development in August 2015 and the first 2 days of school and then did not show up again. She also didn't provide a letter of resignation or tell the school she would not be coming into work. The school district said she later did email Human Resources. According to the documents in that email, LS indicated that she left the district because she experienced harassment and retaliation after requesting to be released from her contract due to a pending military move, which she claims had been denied. She also alleged that the district superintendent's niece was her husband's ex-wife, and that the harassment and retaliation were due to this relationship. She threatened to file an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission claim unless she was released from her contract. The harassment and retaliation claim was investigated and remains unsubstantiated. The district said they did not receive military transfer papers from LS's husband until after she had been fired for abandoning her position. The school district reported LS to the State Board of Education, which found that a suspension of her educator's certificate was warranted. Prior to teaching in Marion County, LS worked in the Myrtle Beach area. According to the Horry County School, she worked there from 2010 to 2015, first as a paraprofessional and then as a teacher. A source said that LS was fired from her 3 most recent teaching jobs after the Horry County job. The first firing is documented in the South Carolina Board of Education documents. Minutes from a 2018 Brunswick County Schools meeting in North Carolina shows she was terminated from her job as an early childhood teacher there on August the 30th, 2018. She had been working at Jessie May Monroe Elementary School. And a source said that LS was fired from her job in Colorado in December 2019 after just 1 semester of employment. She had worked at French Elementary School in Colorado Springs before she was fired after a few months. In January 2020, LS posted on a LinkedIn ad for Frontier Airlines saying that she had applied for flight attendant jobs based out of Denver and Miami. That post was made about 3 weeks before Gannon went missing. Court records show that LS was previously arrested for an alleged string of crimes in 4 states under 3 different names. Criminal records show that she was even sentenced to prison after 1 arrest and has been convicted of charges including battery, grand theft auto, making threats, and domestic violence, according to the documents. This last charge of murder caps off a lengthy arrest record for LS that goes back 2 decades. It was soon after she graduated high school in 2001 that she was arrested for stealing a car in North Carolina. It was reported at the time that she was found guilty of felony larceny, which was reduced to misdemeanor unauthorized use of a vehicle. For that offense, LS was sentenced to 45 days in jail, but given credit for time served. She was also put on probation for 18 months and ordered to pay just over $1,000. That same year, she was also charged with communicating threats and simple assault. But those counts seem to have been dropped as part of her deal with prosecutors in the felony larceny case, court documents show. It was also traffic offences that got LS picked up in Virginia a few years later, but she was able to get off after paying a fine for these minor offences, according to court records. Her Instagram is under the name Dr. Stauch. In January 2015, Al and LS marry. LS resigned from her teaching position with Horry County on June 29, 2015, and the family moved back to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where they owned a home. On June 9, 2016, Al took a new job assignment in Alaska, which LS was very unhappy about. She said there was nothing to do there and it was cold. In March 2017, Al petitions for modified custody of Gannon and Lena so that he has more custody of them, and this is granted in March 2018. Meanwhile, in Alaska, LS is a very discontented bunny. She told Harley one time that they are going to have a last dinner together because she has, quote, already taken them, unquote, assumed to be pills. The next day, LS was still alive, and the two of them never spoke of this incident again. The family moved to a rental home in Colorado Springs after filing a complaint alleging that Al's fellow soldiers had sexually harassed her. The situation was handled by reassigning Al to Colorado. In May 2019, Al had an accident while woodworking in his garage and cuts off the tip of a finger, for which he receives a prescription for hydrocodone. This medication was never finished by Al, but remained in his nightstand. This is significant because hydrocodone was found in Gannon's system during his autopsy. In the fall of 2019, LS becomes paranoid about an alleged car accident that she was in involving a hit and run. Police say it wasn't her. This is strange because this is how her father died, and it is also the excuse she gives to not going into work the day of Gannon's disappearance. LS also claims that there had been a burglary at her home, but later admitted to making this up. LS is employed around this time with the French elementary school, and she was struggling with her job. She was also supposedly seeing a doctor for mental health issues. Al went to one appointment with her. The family acquired 2 bulldog puppies called Sadie and Chance. They celebrated an early Christmas in 2019 as Gannon and Lena spent the holidays with their mother, Landon. LS, having introduced herself as Harley on Facebook, meets neighbor Nicole Mobley to give her free clothes. She began training to be a flight attendant and took a trip just after Christmas for this purpose. LS will later state that she didn't make it to training because she couldn't find anyone to watch the kids, as Al worked nights. So she rescheduled the training for February 2020. Lena and Gannon returned from their mother's home in early January 2020, and Al and LS went on a trip alone to Florida for their anniversary. LS hired a babysitter for all of the kids. On January 16th, Leslie Hicks, assistant principal of Mountain Ridge Middle School, reached out to LS regarding her interest in a resource teacher position for kids in special education, and LS began her trial period later that month. Mid-January 2020, Al's mother comes to stay with the family for about a week. Al then drove his mother to the airport on the 25th of January after dinner and slept at the airport overnight for his flight the next morning, as he had 2 weeks training in Oklahoma with the National Guard. It was on this day, January the 26th, at 6627 Mandan Drive, that LS began her many Google searches. LS, Gannon, and Lena go for a nature hike to the Garden of the Gods, but this is interrupted, according to LS, because Gannon had stomach issues and was, quote, pooping in his pants, unquote, which carried into most of the night and early next morning. Gannon texts with Al about his stomach issues and asks him if they have bath salts, and Al understands that he is talking about the drug version of bath salts. Detectives now believe this was LS texting through Gannon's phone. Al then texts LS to hide their bath items. Al tells Gannon he cannot go over to play at the house of the friend who invited him over on the condition he bring bath salts. Was LS already trying to establish an alibi here? Sometime in the late evening, a candle incident occurs, LS claims that Gannon knocked over a candle and burned the carpet. She recorded the aftermath on her mobile, which is now in evidence.
Gannon, I promise this is the last time I'm going to ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? Okay, we promise. You promise. Pinky promise. Okay, all right, so listen. We're gonna have to sell stuff to fix it, okay? So we figure out what we gotta sell. We can sell the sofa, we can sell whatever, because we gotta get it fixed. So lady, don't be mad at us and kick us out of the house, okay? You got it? You got it?
I'm just worried about my friend.
Okay, shh, listen. So tomorrow...
In one story, LS claims that Gannon had lit a candle to hide the smell of poop in his room. In another account, he was playing his Switch late when he should have been sleeping, and he had lit a candle, but he accidentally knocked it over when he heard LS coming towards his room. Neither of these stories make sense. He wouldn't need the light of a candle if he was playing his Switch. This is Harley's account during her testimony at the trial. At almost 10 in the evening, Harley is at the end of her shift at work when she gets a text from LS telling her that Gannon had knocked a candle over and that there was a lot of smoke and a lot of fire. LS stomped on the bed covers to put it out. Harley said the texts were confusing. LS sent her a photo of the candle. According to LS, Lena grabbed the two dogs and they ran outside. Harley returned from work at around 10:30. LS told her she had called her fireman friend to come over and check that everything was okay. LS then told Harley that Gannon was screaming in the road about how much he hated his life, which to Harley didn't sound like him. Harley then went to check on Gannon. LS suggested they both go downstairs to wish Gannon good night, an uncommon practice for them. LS claimed Gannon was acting strangely. However, discrepancies in LS's narrative surfaced as Gannon supposedly slept in Lena's room, contrary to what Harley knew. Harley couldn't remember if Gannon responded when she went to check on him. The story has a few variations, and nobody really knows exactly what happened that night. During the investigation into the disappearance of Gannon, LS provided several different stories and explanations. Her shifting stories, inconsistencies, and lack of credible evidence led law enforcement to be highly skeptical of her explanations. Ultimately, her conduct raised suspicions and contributed to her arrest and subsequent legal proceedings. I tried to keep up with the stories during the trial, but half the time I couldn't understand what she was saying in the interviews and many phone call recordings, as she tended to say a whole lot of nothing, and I found it difficult to keep up with her. But here is a detailed account of the days from Gannon's disappearance to LS being arrested based on police records. I watched the whole trial again to better piece everything together, but at double speed, and LS sounds awful at that speed. I break down these stories a little later in the video just to provide some sort of clarification. At 2:45 a.m., LS texted Al about Gannon not feeling well, and then texted her employer, the assistant principal, at 4:37 a.m., telling her that she won't be into work today as her stepdad had been killed in a car accident. Her stepdad did indeed die from a hit and run, but years ago. LS called Gannon's school to say that he will not be coming in. At 8:00 a.m., Harley left for work. At 8:18 a.m., LS texts Al a picture of Gannon sleeping. Was this photo intended as proof of life? The bedding on this photo was one of the red flags early on in the investigation because detectives never found this bedding in the house. At 9:27 a.m., she sends Harley screenshots of her texts with Al regarding Gannon's request for bath salts, so she's really driving home this alibi. Perhaps an attempt to cover up the fact that she was already poisoning Gannon with drugs. She then locks her phone at 9:56 a.m. and leaves it at home. LS and Gannon leave the house at 10:12 a.m. In Al's red Nissan Frontier. A neighbour's surveillance video captures both of them leaving the residence, getting into the car and driving off. LS told detectives that she first went to Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee. A text is then sent at 10:37 a.m. to Harley from Gannon's phone saying, quote, "Tisha left phone at home. If you need her, text me," unquote. LS initially claimed to have left her phone at Petco in a phone call with Al, but later changed the story to leaving Gannon's phone there. LS travels north to Petco on North Nevada Avenue. Petco store surveillance captures LS completing a purchase. No sign of Gannon. It is presumed that he was left in the car. LS wanted to buy some sanitary pads for her 2 dogs because, quote, she didn't know that dogs have periods, unquote. At 1:20 p.m., a text from Gannon's phone is sent to Harley saying that he misses her. At 1:21 p.m., Gannon's phone responds to the text from Al. "Can I play Zelda at least?" Al replies, "Not today." It is at this point that detectives believe she drove up to Douglas County to scope out the area. She claimed later in a phone call with Al that she had left Gannon's phone at Petco, and law enforcement believed this was intentional so that there would be no trace of her travelling up to Douglas County. She later would explain that it was her intention all along to drive up to Douglas County to view a bike that she had found on Craigslist. In another version of this story, Gannon wanted to see a castle up there. You will also hear later how she slips up here in a phone call with Al, where she talks about it all being dark and mountainy, but then very quickly corrects herself. Well, not dark because it was in the day. She later returns here when it is dark. She then returns at 1:22 p.m. and makes another purchase at Petco on North Nevada Avenue, and most likely retrieved Gannon's phone. LS ends up buying 3 dog outfits, even though they only have 2 dogs, and she never got the sanitary pads. Gannon's phone searches, "Can my parent find my cell phone if it's off?" at 2:19 p.m. Detectives believe LS wrote this. At 2:19, the vehicle returns home, and according to law enforcement, what appears to be Gannon makes a beeline for the garage, followed by LS. Some people say they see movement of a shadow on the other side of the vehicle, but others swear he never got out of that truck. We know that Gannon did return to the house because of the crime scene in his bedroom. At 2:26 p.m, LS came out and moved the Tiguan from the driveway and backed it into the garage. She is then seen on surveillance video walking out in front of the garage and seemingly looking around before returning to the house. LS unlocks her phone at 2:45 p.m. In a concerning move, LS also blocked the Wi-Fi to Gannon's Nintendo Switch and Alexa. Detectives believe LS brutally murdered Gannon during this time. It wasn't enough that Gannon had already been burned by the candle incident, or even that he was lethargic from having hydrocodone in his system. That wasn't enough for her. She took a sharp object that was never found and stabbed him 18 times. But the butcher's block in the kitchen was missing a knife. That wasn't enough either. She then got another blunt object, which also wasn't found, and hit him in the head 4 times, smashing his skull like an eggshell. Still wasn't enough. She then retrieved a 9mm handgun and fired it at Gannon 3 times. 2 bullets struck the pillow near him and were caught in the fibers of that pillow, which would be found later. The 3rd bullet entered his jaw, travelled through his head, fracturing his mandible and his vertebrae, hitting his spinal cord and finally lodging in the back of his head, and was recovered at autopsy. Her clothing from that day was never found. The instrument that she used to stab Gannon has never been found. The blunt object was never found, although LS did make references to a baseball bat. The handgun that she used to fire 3 rounds at Gannon, shell casing ejected out of that firearm each time she pulled the trigger, was never found. No shell casing was ever found in Gannon's room. She then drags his lifeless body to the storage room next to his bedroom, opens a large green suitcase that Gannon's mother, Landon, had got from her aunt, somehow manages to squeeze Gannon's body in there, along with the covers off the bed, which she uses to wrap him up in, and the pillows. She then picks up the shell casings, does something with the knife and the blunt force object, because none of those items were ever found, and leaves the suitcase under a pile of boxes in the storage room. At 3:11 p.m, Al texts her, "Are you sleeping?" with no response from the defendant. Around this time, Lena returns home from school, and again there are different stories here. LS tells her that Gannon is asleep in her bed and instructs Lena to go outside and play. Detectives believe LS was cleaning up blood during this time. Lena can be seen on surveillance video outside riding her bike between 3:30 and 3:42 p.m. At 3:55 p.m, Al sends a message to Gannon's phone, "Hey buddy," that went unread until 7:40 p.m. that evening. Detectives believe Gannon was already deceased and that LS was using the phone herself. Harley arrives home after work at 4:42 p.m, and LS asks her to take Lena to pick up some cleaning supplies from the store. A receipt showing the purchase of trash bags, baking soda and vinegar is in evidence. Detectives found it later in LS's car, the Tiguan. At 6:27 p.m, LS texts Al to tell him that Gannon went to a friend's house, was supposed to be home at 6, but he's not home yet. At 6:55 p.m, El Paso County Sheriff's Office receives a call for a runaway child in the Lawson Ranch neighborhood. The caller is LS. She claims that she last saw Gannon at 3:15 when he left the residence to go play with friends. She's instructed to call a non-emergency number. In this call, she is not able to name any of Gannon's friends or their parents, and is also unable to recall where any of those friends live.
Well, 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado Springs. Please say that one more time, make sure I have this here correctly. 67 Mandan Drive. Okay, the phone number is calling. 843 7460. Is your name? Lisa. I don't even know if I'm supposed to call emergency or non-emergency. Sorry, I can barely talk, but my son was going to be home at 6 o'clock and he was 7. So, like, all his friends' house, he was going to be at his friend's house, and they said he wasn't there, and the other said he never came there. So I don't know any other people calling out, and I talked to my husband, so I told him I had to call you guys as fast as I could because I don't know anyone else here. And I don't know if there's like a time limit, but like he's only 11. He's 11. 11, yes. Okay. Okay. And then, start for me. Okay. Nora. Stauch. Stauch. Okay. That's a brilliant drive. I got it. I can barely drive. Should I have it? I'm going to give you, we have multiple questions we have to ask you. We don't want to tie up an emergency device. We're going to give you our non-emergency number. That's fine. That's not, you know which number to call on. Yeah, okay. You know when you're ready for that number. Okay, go ahead. One time. You need 19 390 5555. Okay. You're welcome. I call that now. Yep. I already have the call built. Yeah. So, basketball. Where we left off. I think.
Because Gannon is 11, he's classified as a runaway and entered into the state and national database as an active runaway. When the police arrived after the first 911 call, they actually did look around the house while Gannon's body was most likely in the suitcase, already in the storeroom next to his bedroom under some boxes. This will also alert detectives later when they compare images of the cam with images of the crime scene later. They noticed that some boxes had been moved since both photos were taken.
We were just like,
Did he take his bike?
no.
Okay, because somebody saw a little kid on a bike. They posted it, but I didn't know if he brought it.
Well, he did, unless he took it sooner and brought it back because Lena ends up getting the bike
Okay.
and rides the bike because hers had broke. When she ran into him, I say ran into him as in not physically,
Right.
but she somehow got his bike because hers wouldn't work. So he could have at
So
one
they were
point.
here.
Okay.
They were supposed to go for dinner. And, you know,
Black.
they thought he was at his
Black.
friend's house. He was like,
Yeah.
just started sleeping. So
We
they were
got
gonna
we
pick
have him
down
on
the road.
one
And he was never there.
There's
And he didn't
one
want to
picture
go to
someone
his
said he was on
Okay.
and he was holding he was making the switch.
Do you mind if my partner looks around the house real quick?
Yeah.
Because kids, they hide.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, we've already checked.
Is there any other kids here?
Yeah, there's kids here. Yeah, no, he's definitely he's out there. Yeah, so it was okay, so the exact time because I was correcting his carpet. And he's free, like, my husband's like very normal. I kind of always like, he was actually going to be here, remember the time I was here, but like, he's like, oh, as long as everything's all right, you know, then I got this. So, yeah, so he is
Harley goes out in her car to look for Gannon while LS remains at home, communicating with Al about the situation. Throughout the evening, LS used Gannon's phone to call his mother, Landon, a couple of times. This goes to the motive theory that the prosecution have about her resentment towards Al and Landon. At 10:09 p.m., deputies from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office arrive at LS's house and search the property. They observed the Tiguan backed into the garage. Detectives later compare body camera footage of Gannon's room, compared to photos taken earlier in the day, and see Gannon's bed with different bedding, and the bed moved against the wall. LS's neighbor, Nicole Mobley, reaches out to LS on Facebook to get an idea on where to look for Gannon and is subsequently blocked. Nicole would later go on to create a fake profile on Facebook and lure LS into giving her information, which she then takes to the authorities. She would also be a witness in her trial. At 2:14 p.m., LS texts her neighbor, Nicole Mobley. When we came back inside from the smoke, there was blood on both of us. I didn't know what to do. I was scared I would get, unknown word, out about it, and I don't know if you should go to the doctor. I kept trying to add the candle thing, but Albert kept saying it was small and minor. I was scared the basement was smoky, and when I threw the cover, everything, we both had blood. You don't understand how it is to be a stepmom. LS did a lot of driving around on the day of Gannon's disappearance and the next day, but it wasn't to look for Gannon. She already knew where Gannon was. No need to look. No, she was playing musical cars. It got really complicated, and there are some movements that we know happened, but just not quite when exactly.